This is not financial advice. Do not take this as financial advice. This is just a video for educational purposes only. Debt, something all our parents told us to avoid while growing up, and it makes sense why. The basic logic of owing money to someone is bad and not owing money is good makes a lot of sense. On the surface, however, I'm here today to tell you the debt can be used to make you $1 million pretty easily. This isn't a new concept that I've just come up with. This is knowledge that is held by the wealthiest people on this planet and is used best by people like Robert Kiyosaki and Donald Trump. In this video today, my goal is to teach you what debt is, the difference between good and bad debt, and how you can use debt to create wealth. With that being said, let's get straight into it. Also, this is my first YouTube video, and if you find this helpful or educational, please do consider giving me a follow, whether it's on Instagram or here on YouTube, for more of my content in the future. What debt really is. Debt is when one party borrows money from another party with a promise to pay it back. Debt is used by many individuals and companies to make purchases that they cannot afford under other circumstances. Debt must be paid back to the lender, typically with added interest. The most common forms of debt are loans, including mortgages, auto loans, and personal loans, as well as credit cards. Under the terms of most loans, the borrower receives a set amount of money which they must repay by a certain date, which may be months or years in the future. The terms of the loan will also stipulate the amount of interest that the borrower is required to pay, expressed as a percentage of the loan amount. Interest compensates the lender for taking the risk of the loan. So, is debt a good or bad thing? Well, debt doesn't really fall into either category, as debt is both good and bad. Most individuals will try to tell you that debt is a bad thing and something that we should avoid. However, that's a very closed-minded view on debt, as there's both good and bad debt. So then what is the difference between good and bad debt? To tell the difference between good and bad debt, we'll start by first looking at bad debt. Simply put, bad debt is when you go into debt for liabilities or things you don't need. Some examples of this are the latest iPhone, a new car, a pricey holiday, expensive clothes, and new furniture. Bad debts are usually when you take out a loan to buy an item that doesn't bring in any money and the value depreciates over time. This loan usually leaves you out of pocket a lot more than what you should be. Bad debt should definitely be avoided by everyone, and is typically what people think of when they think about debt. But that raises the question, what is good debt? Good debt is debt that helps build wealth, such as loan used for acquiring income-generating assets. Some examples of this would be real estate, businesses, or investments. The big thing with good debt is the asset you purchase will pay off the loan through the income it's generating, whether it's a house you buy and rent or a vending machine you purchase that just sells drinks. Now that you know the difference between good and bad debt, you might also be wondering why debt is so good for building wealth. When you leverage debt, you use a small portion of your own resources to acquire a large portion of someone else's resources. This allows the borrower to gain full control of an asset, and with that control they also get all the benefits of the asset without fully owning it. Those benefits could be the revenue, appreciation, depreciation, and the use of the asset. When done correctly, over many years, the asset will pay all the debt for you. And finally, one of the biggest reasons debt is good for building wealth is because $100,000 is worth more today than it is worth in 50 years, whereas a rental property is worth more in 50 years than it is today. So when you borrow money to buy an appreciating asset over a long period of time, you end up having repayments that are depreciating compared to the asset that is appreciating and paying the payments off. So how can someone like you use debt to make wealth? Well, there are three big assets you can invest in. Number one being yourself. You could use a loan today to maybe get more education that could land you a better position or even a better career. This is one of the three assets you can invest in. However, I know not everyone wants to take out a student loan, and that's totally understandable. The second asset is your business. Having an extra boost of money can be used to grow a company over a short period of time and help boost revenue and profits. However, I do understand that not everyone watching this owns a business, so the third asset in which you could invest in is real estate. Now this is the asset I would put as the main focus for this video, as more millionaires are made through real estate each year than anything else. I'm now going to teach you how you can use debt to invest in real estate and grow your wealth. To explain this, I'm going to use some simple numbers, and that's just to make it as easy as possible to understand the concept. However, after the video is done, use some real numbers from your life to understand this better. But for the sake of this video, let's say you're buying a house for $100,000 and we put down 20%, which is $20,000, and leverage the rest from a bank of $80,000 at a 5% interest rate over 30 years, which is a traditional home loan. This will be monthly repayments of $430 over a 30-year period. However though, we now have full control over this property, which means we have the right to any revenue it makes, the appreciation of the property, the tax advantages due to any depreciation of the property, and the benefits of amortization, which is paying down the debt. Next, we would go find a tenant that will pay us $1,200 a month to live in our property. We will then use that money to pay down the debt of $430 a month. So this means we have used a loan to create income, pay off the loan, and claim tax advantages to do with real estate and further offset the debt repayments. Those tax advantages are cost of borrowing money, management costs, depreciation, and other allowable business costs. Now let's say we sit on the property for 3 years. This is what happens after those 3 years. Let's say the appreciation over those 3 years is low, so around 3%. That will mean we have a property that is now worth $110,000. So when we add 3 years of debt pay down, that gives our principal pay down of $1,300. So that means we now have a new equity position of $31,300. So through leveraging debt, we have turned $20,000 into $30,000, and this number will keep increasing exponentially every year. You could also now use that $31,000 to leverage a new debt and buy another house. Then in 3 years, you'll be able to do it again and buy 2 new properties. Then in 3 years again, you'll be able to buy 6 new properties, which means over the course of 9 years, you've bought 10 properties and turned $20,000 into $1 million real estate empire and around $500,000 in equity. And that's without the positive cash flow of the rent even factored in. Now I'm sure you're still skeptical about this and have probably 100 reasons why this could never work. But let me tell you this. This method right here has made more millionaires than any other method on earth. It is currently the #1 way people are building wealth. And if you'd like a more in-depth video on this in the future, please leave a like, comment down below that, and subscribe for more future content that's all going to be as educational and as valuable as this content right here. I'd love to see you in these videos in the future. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for my next upload in hopefully around a month. Also follow my Instagram @Wormzy.